Climate change is here, it's coming. We are constantly sort of learning more about how it affects wildlife. I advocate for native plants because our native wildlife evolved with the native plants. They didn't evolve with plants from Southeast Asia or South America, and they're often important connections in terms of those evolutionary relationships.
There was a recent study just a few years ago about how we've lost collectively 3 billion birds in North America. There's alarming reports of insect declines. So I think there's lots of signals that if we do nothing, I think the world will look very different.
We have a ton of green space in a lot of neighborhoods, but we just plant it all in lawn, which is a food desert for insects. A lot of the reason that insect populations are collapsing because we've just completely gotten rid of all the habitat that they rely on.
We're not going to survive if we lose pollinators. We're not going to survive if we lose viable food webs. If the plants crash. I think, what's the figure? 44% of our plants are at risk of extinction at this point.
There's been a lot of talk about the difference between native and non-native plants in the degree to which they support insects, and we certainly see that signal in our data. That's super important because this is a place where people can really impact habitat for wildlife in their own yards. If they manipulate that native versus non-native composition of plants in their yard, they really can dramatically improve bird habitat via insects.
I teach a class in wildlife habitat management, and on day one I look all the students in the eye, there's like 90 of them, and I say, listen, we're going to have fun this semester. This class is titled Wildlife Habitat Management, but this class is about plant management.
I used to, in my private gardens, say, well, it's okay if it's a non-native, but it's not invasive and it doesn't get away into wild spaces. It's okay, they're pretty. But now I'm down to the point of it's taking up space, it's taking up water, and it's not doing anything positive for the environment. It's not supporting any bugs. It's not supporting any soil organisms necessarily. It's just there. So I don't even in my own garden plant non-natives anymore.
There are many benefits to planting native plants. They're often pollinators, so we're also really trying to recreate pollinator habitat because we have lost so many bees and our food supply really depends upon it. Once you get it established, you don't need to keep watering it. And you're also creating an ecosystem, not only for pollinators, but also for birds.
When you're feeding a clutch of baby birds, it takes between 6,000 and 9,000 caterpillars to get one clutch of birds to the point where they leave the nest. And after they leave the nest, the parents continue to feed them caterpillars another 21 days. So you're talking about tens of thousands of caterpillars required to make one nest of a bird that's 1/3 of an ounce.
Homeowners invited me to come and create a landscape design for their front yard. I immediately thought, wouldn't it be beautiful to have a meadow in front of their urban farmhouse? The idea is that the flowers are going to grow up through the grasses and they're going to change height as they come and they grow and die back. So there's a lot of beautiful texture, and they've seen a lot of insect action all summer.
Now that we're in a different age of like climate change and habitat degradation and lots of development, people are starting to understand that if they want like bird populations like hummingbirds or songbirds, things that they really appreciate about nature, if they want those animals to be able to survive, we need to change the way we garden out in the world.
No, I haven't seen many. I hear birds calling. Been hearing the white-breasted nuthatch and the red-winged blackbird of all things this morning. But it's such a beautiful forest to walk in.
We all depend on healthy ecosystems. It's everybody's responsibility to keep them that healthy. If you think of planet Earth as our house, it's our nest, it's where we live. You know, in your house, you don't You don't trash it and then live there. You take care of it because it's your little space. This Earth is our little space, and if you look at the greater solar system, it's little, it's tiny, and it's the only one. Don't plan on going anyplace else.